Hi everyone, I'm Jan Wegener and welcome back to the Early Bird Photo News. I'm finally back in hot and sunny Queensland. I really enjoyed the few weeks that I spent in Melbourne, but I also must say it's nice to be back home because I've basically been on the road since the beginning of July. Originally I had planned for the Melbourne trip to just be a quiet family trip and that we would attend a family wedding. But as you know, things don't always work out as planned, and so the whole trip quickly turned into quite a hectic photography adventure. Just before we left to Melbourne, I got a few phone calls offering me to review some exciting new gear, and of course, I couldn't say no to that. So instead of taking it easy in Melbourne, I grabbed the new gear and visited some of my old stomping grounds, photographing amazing peregrine falcons, wedge-tailed eagles, and some other beautiful little birds like the rose robin or the musk lorikeet. Some of the gear I can't talk about just yet, but last week I released my Canon R1 review, their brand new flagship camera. And I must admit, I didn't want to like this camera originally with the small 24 megapixel sensor, but the more I used it in the field, the more I got excited about it and enjoyed using it because it had some tremendous new features that were very helpful in capturing some really cool images. I expected the R1 to be a lot more like the R3, a camera that I personally own but never truly fell in love with. But what I experienced in the field was actually quite a big step up. The R1 is one of those cameras that doesn't look spectacular on paper, but when you actually use it in the field, it definitely delivers. It has that beautiful huge EVF, the great AF on button, and I really enjoyed being able to use very high ISOs and still have sufficient dynamic range left to even lift up quite underexposed files and get enough detail in those dark areas, something that's quite difficult to do on an R5 Mark II, for instance. I know some people in the comment section of that video didn't actually like that I personally like the R1, and to be honest, I didn't expect to like the camera, but when you use it in the field, it definitely grows in you, and I always bring you my true feelings, whether they are good or bad, or in this case, probably extremely positive, because I just want to share with you how I feel about the gear, and if I say something is good, then hopefully you know that you can rely on that as well, and if I say something is not as good or bad, then you also know that I tell you the truth, and I don't really like to hold back in my reviews. And when it comes to the R1, I felt surprisingly positive about the camera, and that's also what I shared with you in the video. And if you haven't watched that review yet, I think it's definitely time to do so after watching this video. What I love hearing and seeing is how much my new Lightroom and Photoshop Masterclasses help all of you to achieve your editing goals. Whether you want to learn a quick and efficient workflow or learn how to edit even your most difficult to edit images, my new Lightroom Masterclass and the next generation Photoshop Masterclass definitely got you covered. They teach you step by step in a systematic and very clear and easy to follow approach how to get fantastic results from the images that you're taking with your own cameras in the field. So if you want to turn editing from a frustrating chore into a rewarding experience because now you will actually know how to do it and how to get great results, make sure to check out my Lightroom Masterclass and my next generation Photoshop Masterclass. I know that will help you on your way to achieve your editing goals and turn your own images into masterpieces. So make sure to check these out down there in the description. Alongside the R1, I also used Canon's f2.8 100-300mm RF lens, a lens that I haven't really used in the past, and so I was quite excited to see what it's like when you use it out and about. And I must say there were a few things that I really liked about the lens, like the amazing image stabilization. It was so easy to handhold video and to handhold slow shutter speed. But there were also a few things that I didn't quite like about this lens. And I'm going to post a review of that lens and how it works with the teleconverters, for instance, over the next few weeks as well. So stay tuned for that. Over the last few months, I've literally traveled all along the east coast of Australia, all the way from the top in the Caviar Peninsula down to the south in Melbourne. So in total, almost 20,000 kilometers of driving up and down the east coast. And because of that, I also haven't been able to post as many YouTube videos as I usually do. And these YouTube videos also have been a little bit more Canon heavy, simply due to the fact that Canon has just released two of their new major cameras, the R5 Mark II and the R1. But over the next few weeks, there will definitely be a lot more content from other brands as well. And currently, I'm using the Nikon Z6 III and the 800mm PF lens. In the past, I've used that lens a few times, but I never actually got around to making a video. So now I have this lens for a few weeks and can use it with different cameras and actually really feel and see what it's like, and then post a video review for you guys as well. Because especially for us bird photographers, that 800mm PF lens with that great reach, great size and great weight is definitely a very interesting lens. And I'd love to hear from all of you who already have that lens. How are you liking it? So let me know down there in the comments. And this brings me to quite a strange development in the Nikon lineup, and one that I've personally been affected by as well. And if any one of you knows why they might be doing this, let me know, but I don't really think anyone would have a good answer, but we'll see. Every time I grab the Z6 III and use it in the field, I'm surprised how nicely it lies in the hand and how well it performs overall, especially when it comes to taking video. But there's one major downside for us bird photographers with that camera, and that is that it doesn't have the bird detect autofocus or the bird subject detection mode that the Z8 and the Z9 have, for instance. Ever since the bird detection mode came out and was introduced first to the Z9 and then to the Z8, it has definitely transformed the autofocus and given us much better performance when photographing birds in the field. So leaving that bird detection mode out of the Z6 III was always quite a head stretcher for me. But now it gets even more strange, because last week Nikon released the Z50 II, a very nice looking small content creator camera that comes in just around the $900 mark. And looking at the reviews, it looks like a fantastic little camera that will make many people very happy, especially when it comes to cool content creation. So far so good, right? But when I was reading through the specs of the Z50 II, something caught my eye, because it says it comes with the bird detection autofocus. So now I'd like to hear from you guys. Why does the Z50 II that comes in at a $900 price point has bird detection autofocus, but the $2,500 Z6 III doesn't have bird detection autofocus, which actually makes it quite difficult to work with it sometimes in the field if you want to do birds in flight, photograph birds in the grass or birds that are sort of in the bushes and with surrounding branches. So I reached out to Nikon to see what the heck's going on, but of course they couldn't really give me an answer, but they said they would pass on my feedback to Nikon Japan, and hopefully we will get a future firmware update that gives us the bird detection autofocus also in the Z6 III. Over the last few years, Nikon has been very good at adding new features to their cameras like the Z8 and the Z9. But now seeing that the Z50 has a feature that the Z6 III doesn't have is quite strange, and I'm still hopeful that that feature will also come to the Z6 III because it would improve the camera dramatically for bird photography. But at this stage, we can only wait and see, but it's definitely a bit of a head scratcher for me. It looks like it's going to be a few exciting weeks ahead for Sony users as well, because if we can trust the rumors, Sony is about to release the Sony Alpha 1 Mark II, their brand new flagship camera. Looking at the rumored specs and changes to the camera, it's quite interesting to see that some specs don't really seem to have changed, but other specs like the body actually seem to have improved quite a bit. But with all cameras, and the A1 is no exception, specs and especially rumors never tell the full story. With the R1, for instance, that I recently used in the field, the specs didn't look very impressive, but then when you use the camera in the field, it was super exciting. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what the camera will be like, what the actual specs will be like, and how it will perform in the field. And if I can get my hands on that camera, I'll definitely make a video for you guys using it in the field, putting it through its paces, and also comparing it to the competition of like the R5 Mark II and the R1, for instance. But since we're talking about the rumors, what are your thoughts on the new Sony Alpha 1 Mark II if we can trust these rumors? Is it an exciting camera you're looking forward to, or does it feel like a rather sort of evolutionary camera? Let me know in those comments. Whether it's in the comment section on YouTube, on Instagram, or in my private messages on Instagram, people always ask me a lot of questions. And one of those questions is, why do you never consider using a monopod? And I must say, I'm definitely not the biggest fan of monopods, and in the past, I've never quite enjoyed to use them in the field. They can definitely help you to stabilize your camera, but at the same time, I always found them quite restrictive. And oftentimes I see people lifting their camera with the monopod attached, and it's definitely not really something that you want to do. So I've often stayed away from monopods because at least the ones that I used in the past weren't super flexible. It was hard to extend them, put them back together, and you could also not just rest your camera on the monopod because it would simply fall over. But since so many of you guys always ask me what I think of monopods, I thought, why don't I get a monopod and try it out? And I must tell you, these new monopods have definitely improved a lot compared to the ones that I used in the past. This one is a iFootage Cobra 3 Strike monopod that they sent me to test out, and so far I must say I'm quite impressed. It's very easy to extend it and push it in simply by the press of the one button. And then one of the big things I didn't like about monopods they solved as well, because now we have this little tripod at the bottom of the monopod that allows us to put the monopod on the ground, move it around, but also rest the camera on it in a much safer way. And if you use a wide angle lens, for instance, you can even put the whole setup on the ground and it will stay there and stay stable. Now, I wouldn't recommend to rest your camera on this forever, but you can definitely let it stand on this monopod without risking it falling over, at least immediately. And what I also love about this monopod is that you can unlock the... Well, that was easy, wasn't it? There it is. I took that off probably a little bit too enthusiastically, but what's definitely cool about this monopod is that you can actually detach these legs and they turn into a little mini tripod. So these come out, and then you also take out the little plate here on top, put that in here, and then you can put your tripod head in there. This monopod actually comes with a tripod head, like a little video head, so you can use that. But I also like to put my Flex Shooter Pros on there, which I found work pretty well. So of course I haven't used this in the field too much, and I will use it more and let you know my thoughts about monopods. But having a monopod that's this flexible, so easy to extend and put back together as well, and also gives me the option to have this little ground tripod and stand the monopod down for a little while without risking it falling over all the time, is definitely something that I think I will find quite useful in the field. So I'll keep you updated on how I go with the monopod, but for now, I must say I'm quite impressed how this actually works. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this week's Early Bird Photo News. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please give me that thumbs up. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments, what's going on with the Nikon lineup. Check out my channel membership, and of course, hit that subscribe button and check out my new masterclasses. And I will see you guys in another video very soon. Bye!